Former PhD student Nicole Verzi is accused of murdering her best friend's newborn baby boy and injuring his twin brother, and now she has lost a major battle in court. We're going through Nicole Verzi's case, the statement she made to law enforcement that she didn't want the jury to hear, and the punishment she could face. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. And injuring his twin brother, and now she has lost a major battle in court. We're going through Nicole Verzi's case, the statement she made to law enforcement that she didn't want the jury to hear, and the punishment she could face. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Nicole Verzi is now 31 years old, and she is in the fight of her life. Verzi is accused of murdering her best friend's baby boy in June of 2024 and injuring that baby's twin brother. And if Verzi is convicted of murdering baby Leon Katz and hurting his brother, she could be sentenced to death. Recently, Nicole Verzi asked a judge to suppress statements that she made to detectives in which prosecutors say she admitted to hurting Leon. And according to prosecutors, Verzi said she had a long-time compulsion, a need, a desire to harm children that went back to her own childhood. It's unbelievable. Criminologist Dr. Debbie Goodman will join me very shortly to discuss this claim. But first, I want to recap this incredibly disturbing case since it's been a while since we've discussed it. In June of 2024, Nicole Verzi, a PhD student in psychology, traveled from San Diego to Pittsburgh to visit her best friend who'd recently given birth to twins. A probable cause affidavit lays out what police claim happened back in June of 2024. That affidavit says that Verzi called 911 on June 15th before midnight and said Leon suffered a bump to the head after falling from a bassinet. The document said the baby was non-responsive. Leon was rushed to the hospital, and the affidavit said his parents had left Leon in Nicole Verzi's care after taking his twin brother to the hospital for an injury to his genitals, which Verzi had brought to their attention. Police said Leon suffered a severe skull fracture and multiple brain bleeds. The affidavit says Dr. Wolford of the Child Advocacy Center informed Detective O'Neill that the injuries sustained by both John Doe and Leon Katz is consistent with having been sustained as a result of child abuse, as these are inflicted injuries that are not natural and not accidental. Verzi agreed to speak to police at the police department. The affidavit states Verzi was unable to provide any plausible explanation for the cause consistent with the extent of the injuries that Leon Katz sustained while in her care. Verzi stated that she was with Savannah Roberts, Ethan Katz, and the twins on 6/15 of 2024. They went on an outing in the afternoon hours, and she was out by herself at a grocery store after that. Verzi estimated that at approximately 1830 hours, the parents took the John Doe to the hospital for the injury to the genital area. Verzi identified herself as the sole caretaker for Leon Katz while the parents and brother were at the hospital. Detectives said that Verzi told them that Leon was fine after his parents left, that he had eaten, soiled 2 diapers, and was burped. The affidavit continued. While Verzi was in the kitchen, she heard Leon screaming. She found Leon lying on his left side on the floor and picked him up. She observed a large bump to the left side of Leon's head. She contacted Leon's parents and then called 911. Ethan Katz arrived back at the home near the same time that first responders arrived. Leon was transported to the hospital while Ethan and Verzi drove to the hospital separately. As for injuries sustained by John Doe, Verzi stated that she observed the injury to Doe's genital area first and alerted his parents. She also photographed the injury and sent it to Ethan Katz. She also stated that Doe sustained a scratch to his face while she was placing him in the car seat, and he flailed his arms. Leon died hours later at the hospital. It was Father's Day. The affidavit detailed the injuries that Leon's twin brother suffered. It reads, "It should be noted that your affiant spoke with Dr. Wolford, who stated that John Doe's injuries are as follows: 2 scratches to the right cheek, 1 small scratch below the left side of the nose, 1 small scratch to the left cheek, 2 bruises below the belly button, bruising, swelling, and redness to the genital area, and scratches to the tip of the genitals. In addition, Dr. Wolford believed that all of Leon's injuries were acute. An autopsy performed determined that Leon died as the result of blunt force trauma. His death was ruled a homicide. His parents denied causing the injuries to Leon or his twin brother. Prosecutors are pursuing the death penalty against Nicole Verzi, listing 4 aggravating factors. First, they say Verzi committed the killing while in perpetration of a felony. Second, prosecutors say the offense was committed by means of torture. Third, prosecutors say they'll introduce evidence that Verzi has a significant history of felony convictions involving the use or threat of violence to the person. And the fourth and final aggravating factor cited by prosecutors, the victim was younger than age 12. Now, these are all things that prosecutors would present in the sentencing phase of a trial if Verzi was found guilty. Recently, a judge ruled that statements Nicole Verzi made to law enforcement the day that baby Leon died would not be suppressed. Verzi claimed she was coerced and had been at the police department for 13 hours. Those statements include Verzi telling detectives that she dropped the baby hard on the floor a couple of times before he died. The Pittsburgh Tribune-Review's website reported that Verzi told detectives, "Something just came over me I couldn't control. I'm telling you this because I can't keep lying about it." The site said that Verzi also told detectives, "I don't want to hurt anyone anymore. I know the best thing is for me to go away, or maybe worse." And Verzi, according to detectives, admitted to having a desire to harm children. From a very, very young age, I don't know what it is, but I always had this urge, almost like a compulsion I can't control, to hurt kids. In 2024, I spoke with Nicole Verzi's attorney, David Schrager, about how he planned to defend her.
She is handling it as well as to be expected. I think that she's maintained a good mindset and has remained positive. She understands that the process is a lengthy one, and that she will have her day in court. She will get to tell her side of the story. She will get to share her truth, but that takes some time, and that's difficult for people to deal with. It's hard to understand that our justice system works in a way that it takes a long time to get to be able to the point where most of the people are expecting, which is a trial. A trial happens at the end of a criminal case, and that can be measured in years, potentially.
So to discuss this incredibly disturbing case, I want to bring in Dr. Debbie Goodman. She is a criminologist. And Dr. Goodman, thank you so much for joining me. This case is so stunning to me. And, you don't want to ever judge a book by its cover, right? But we have a psychology PhD student in clinical psychology. She looks like a doll, right? She's like adorable. She's going to be studying clinical psychology. The allegation is she goes to her best friend's home. She's upset that she feels like she was doing nanny work, I guess, and that she's like helping change diapers. I don't know what else you thought you were going to do when you go to visit your best friend and she has newborn twins. That's kind of what you do. You help out. But then she allegedly tells the cops, "I've had a compulsion since I was a child to harm children. I can't stop myself." What do you make of that?
Certainly. Well, good morning, Ann Jeanette, and what a pleasure to join you on such a startling, shocking, sickening case. It's just beyond comprehension to think that someone who you just described, and I agree with you, we can't judge the book by the cover, but what we judge and what we evaluate is the mindset. So thus far in the fact pattern, I believe that this individual, right down the list of first degree murder there was a level of planning, premeditation, willful with malice. So it's indicative, Anjanette, of some other high profile cases that have been discussed on the network and in the media platforms of those who harm children. We could take a look at Susan Smith and the death of her 2 children, Michael and Alex. We look toward Andrea Yates and the 5 children, 4 sons, 1 daughter. Lori Vallow Daybell and the death of Tylee and JJ. So when it comes to any level of mental health question, and that is the question here, what level of mental health compromise, if any, did she actually have? But I think it's these other issues, Anjanette, that will supersede whatever her defense comes in saying. And I can assure you as a criminologist that any level and category of murder that we would discuss, whether it's a singular homicide, double, quadruple, serial murder, mass murder, workplace, school-based, family, there is a level of obsessive compulsivity to these individuals' behaviors. So although we anticipate at the October trial, of course, her defense will raise some type of issue along these lines, or intermittent anger disorder. There will be a variety of things stated, but I think that the composition of this jury will likely be individuals who are mothers, who are fathers, brothers, sisters. They have siblings, and it will be absolutely unconscionable to them that this individual could do what she did, killing little 6-week-old Leon and harming, the twin brother Ari. It's just beyond comprehension.
But where could she have developed if this is true? And I'm saying if it's true, because maybe after she's sitting in this interrogation room for hours and hours at the police department, maybe the wheels are turning. She's talked to her parents according to all of the reporting on this case. Her parents came in and they're like, honey, we're going to get through this. We love you. She got a defense attorney. And then apparently she gets a defense attorney. She talks to a defense attorney. And then the cops are like saying, she says, no, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to tell you what happened. And she, after invoking her right to remain silent, then withdraws that and says, I'm going to tell you what happened. And she admits to shaking Leon and dropping him on the floor until she hears a crack. And then she's like, I don't know what it is. Ever since I was a kid, I've had this compulsion. I can't stop myself. I want to hurt other kids. And then she literally talks about how she's hurt other children. According to, the reporting from triblive.com, she goes through these other instances where she's hurt kids, like since she was a kid. So, wow. Like, do you believe possibly that is actually true, that she's had this like deep-seated compulsion since she was a kid to do this? Or is she smart enough to lay the groundwork for some type of psychological defense while she's sitting there in the interview room?
I don't believe her, Anjanette. I
You don't
simply
believe
do
her?
not. I think I really don't. I don't. For me to believe this is valid and viable and accurate, I need some actual documentation, proof, something from a psychologist, a psychiatrist. And here's why I don't believe her. Because if her best friend Savannah is asking her to babysit her children, doesn't a best friend know our deepest, darkest thoughts and issues and conduct? So why would a mom of twin boys allow somebody that she knew potentially had this disorder even near her children, let alone to be unsupervised with them? What I really think, Anjanette, if we go down the list of evil, for me, it's an acronym that would represent, I think, Nicole was envious, the E for envious. V, the behavior is so vile. I, she had the intent to harm. And L, she has repeatedly lied. So once people start lying, I actually believe in criminology that that's their defense mechanism. You see, they know what they did. They know what they did was wrong, but they start out with the lie. And then isn't it curious to us how midway she decides, oh, investigators, detectives, let me actually now tell you the truth. That's the part I believe, what she actually did to harm little Leon and Ari.
So you think that she possibly made up this childhood history of wanting to harm children? You think she made that up to possibly give herself some mitigation, seeing that she was going to be probably charged with killing Leon?
I think so, Anjanette. In
Interesting.
criminology, we have two areas that are very important, whether it's this crime or any crime dealing with murder. We look at what's called the mens rea. That's the intent, that's the criminal state of mind. And then the second side of the coin is the actus reus. That's the action itself. So wherever this gray area, let's call it, would fall in, obsessive compulsive conduct, the desire to harm children, again, I don't see it at all as negating the fact pattern of the severity, the acute harm that she caused in the death of Leon and in the aggravated assault of Ari.
I want to read a little bit more about what she told the cops. After she says, you know, I'll talk to you again. After she invoked her right to counsel, and then she's like, no, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to talk to you. And keep in mind, she's a PhD student, so she's not dumb. She has some level of intelligence. She says that she had a long history of depression, anxiety, and she had previously been treated for an eating disorder. She said when she was around 7, she locked a 2-year-old in a bathroom and pinched her until she cried. When she was 12 at a church camp, she said she dropped a toddler on a couch a couple of times, which, that's a far cry from what is alleged to have happened to Leon. When she was around 7, in high school, she told the detective she babysat just one time, and she said she put a hot mug on the baby's arm and pinched the child. I mean, this all sounds super sadistic, kind of like bordering on sadistic behavior, getting some type of pleasure out of hurting somebody. And then in high school, and then she said, this is the first time this happened as an adult. There's some weird drive in me that wants to see kids in pain. And then she said, when she was hurting Leon, I felt remorseful when I was actually doing it. I was like watching myself. That was so mean of me. But she said it made her feel satisfied to cause him pain. Yikes. And then she said she was actually caring for him while she was causing him pain. So you think she's making all this up. Is there any way that she's legitimately describing a disorder of some sort? Could you literally care for somebody at the same time, like change their diapers and be nice to them while you're changing, like while you're causing them pain and essentially murdering them?
So everything you're describing, and Jeanette, that Nicole stated happened. We open any criminology textbook, and what jumps right out at us is a category called hedonistic killer. So hedonism, we know, is all about pleasure, and it's normal in terms of just our every daily lives and behaviors and lifestyle, right? We gain pleasure with our family members and our colleagues with whom we interact at work, and then we have our hobbies and behaviors and things we like to engage in. So now we shift gears slightly. Now we look at criminals and people who murder, many of whom will derive pleasure while harming others. And once again, we go straight down that list, and that includes the serial murderer, the mass murderer, those who are harming children, those who are harming elders. Why? Because it speaks to something a little different. They're deriving pleasure, but there's, what I refer to as CPA. There's also the control, the power, the authority that these individuals have over their vulnerable victims. So the hedonistic killer is actually very common at all age groups of criminals. I think that's who and what this individual is.
She also sounded like she was mad. And this kind of makes me wonder, like, is she kind of like a spoiled princess? Like, is she a spoiled brat? Because she's saying she was being put to nanny work and she didn't like that. I mean, you're visiting your best friend who just had twins. I mean, she's your best friend. And having twins, having a baby is a big deal. So maybe you are going to like travel there and help out. Like if your sister has a baby, you go and travel and you help out because it's like a very traumatic thing to the body to have babies. So like maybe she's just upset and felt like she shouldn't be having to take care of a baby. I mean, could that be just like really the root cause of this?
Well, I definitely think it's a part of rather than apart from the dynamic here. But let's also just talk about forensic psychology for a moment, Anjanette. And what do we know? We know that when crimes are based on the same gender, meaning if it's a male criminal and a male victim, female criminal, female victim, there are also other emotional elements here as to why people pick, if you will, select who they want in terms of victimology. And so I think it's quite likely, and I'm sure it'll come out at trial, there must be some level of jealousy, I believe, that Nicole has towards Savannah. Maybe Savannah was very, successful in her personal life and lifestyle, being married, having twins. At the moment, yes, as you mentioned at the intro, Nicole was more on the cerebral side, perhaps intellectual, going through a PhD program, but from afar may have truly been envious of the best friend. And so, if we really believe this platform of her desire to harm children, I must believe that Savannah would have known this, being her very best friend. That's why I just don't think it exists. I think it's fabricated. I think it becomes a convenient crutch for the defense to come up with something in terms of how to possibly mitigate, because we know the state is seeking the death penalty on this.
They definitely are. And there is nobody more defenseless in this world than a baby. Just awful. This is an awful case, a horrific case. And, the state, I just don't see a deal here. I don't see them doing a deal unless the parents sign off on it, and they just don't want to have like years and years of appeals. That's the only way I see this possibly happening. Because Nicole Verzi, according to the article, she apparently said to the cops, I know I need to go away and possibly worse or possibly more. So it's almost like a recognition, some self-awareness that she's got some bad stuff going on. Dr. Debbie Goodman, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Anjanette.
Nicole Verzi has pleaded not guilty to charges of criminal homicide and abuse charges that she faces. Her trial is scheduled to begin in October of 2026. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for joining me. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube. You can also watch and listen